makes it look really official. I want to welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and I appreciate your showing up. And I'm so interested in being a resident here. I've met so many interesting people. When you talk to them, you get interesting stories always. I ran into a fellow the other day. He said that he was at the mall the other day, and terrible rainstorm. Driving around, he couldn't find a parking spot for anything. And he said, "Oh, dear God, please find me a parking spot. If you do, I'll go to church every Sunday. I'll quit it." "Oh, wait a minute, God, one just opened up, never mind." And there's also a couple, it's amazing how many decades people have been married, 40, 50, 60, even 70 years or more. And it takes a lot of doing for a couple to stay together that long, especially to stay happy. I've heard about this one couple that he was reminiscing about the 60 years of marriage. He said, "This proves that our love is tried and true." She said, "What?" "It proves that our love is tried and true." "What?" "Honey," I said, "it proves our love is tried and true." "Well, fine, I'm sick and tired of you too." Well, things like that happen. There was a song that I'm reminded of about people who've married a long time. Jimmy Roselli revived it in 1985, 1937 song, and some of you may remember it. "When you're old, wedding ring was new, and each dream that I dreamed came true. I remember with pride how we stood side by side. What a beautiful woman you made as my bride. Even though silver crowns your hair, I can still see the gold ringlets there. Love's old flame is the same as the day I changed your name. When your old wedding ring was new." When your old wedding ring was new. When your old wedding ring was new. What a great memory.
Very good.
We're going to talk about the old soap operas. Do you remember? Many of you remember the soap operas on radio, 15-minute programs. I jotted down the names of some of them. Ma Perkins, Oxidol's own Ma Perkins. There was Pepper Young's Family, The Right to Happiness, Young Dr. Malone, Young Witter Brown, The Romance of Helen Trent, Stella Dallas, Orphans of Divorce. That sounds like a happy show. The Road of Life, Our Gal Sunday, Life Can Be Beautiful. The trade was known as LCBB for the initials, Life Can Be Beautiful. Wendy Warren in the News, Just Plain Bill, and Mary Noble, Backstage Wife. Frank and Ann Humbert were a Victorian couple, and they produced many of the soap operas. They usually got credit at the end of each 15-minute episode, produced by Frank and Ann Humbert. They were a very Victorian, very prim couple. They didn't have much of a sense of humor. And the program used to start out, Amanda of Honeymoon Hill, with Amanda of Honeymoon Hill. Well, it was set in Virginia, and it went, Amanda of Honeymoon Hill, the story of love and marriage in America's romantic South. The story of Amanda and Edward Layton. Later they changed the opening a little bit, and it came out like this. Amanda of Honeymoon Hill, laid in a world few Americans know. A little double entendre there, laid in a world few Americans know. But the producers didn't catch on. The announcer each day, to stop from cracking up when he read that line, he said he used to take a sharp pencil and push it against his palm of his hand so he wouldn't crack up. And the whole cast would just hope that they didn't laugh when they read that line, laid in a world few Americans know. Well, right now we're going to show you how an actual soap opera was done. It's a reenactment we did some years ago at a radio convention. And we used the exact actors who used to be in all those serials. There was a group of 50 or 60 people that floated around, and they went from soap opera to soap opera. And sometimes they were so busy they would come in at the last minute and rush to the microphone, and the director would hand them the script, and they would read the lines cold. So this one is called The Brighter Day, and it was a spin-off of a show called Joyce Jordan, M.D. So we're going to watch just a couple minutes of it with, again, the actual caster. Your friendly announcer is in there with me, and we'll enjoy seeing what an actual soap opera looked like when they did it. Okay, here, roll the film.
The Brighter Day, brought to you by Dress, America's favorite brand for dishes.
And today, your favorite daytime cereal is The Brighter Day. And in about 30 seconds, you will hear The Brighter Day.
Draft, America's favorite brand for dishes, presents The Brighter Day. The Brighter Day. Our years are as the falling leaf. We live, we love, we dream, and then we go. But somehow we keep hoping, don't we, that our dreams come true on that brighter day. And now, the brighter day. Well, the blow has fallen. Papa Dennis has lost his church. Papa Dennis is a clergyman, and the other day, Althea, one of Papa's many daughters, got her picture in the papers under circumstances not too pleasant. Now the vestrymen have decided that Papa must go. Well, the Reverend hasn't yet heard the bitter, bitter news, but Liz has heard it. Liz, 25 years old, the daughter who keeps the family together. Liz is standing there in the old parlor in the Dennis house, trying to get an explanation from Althea about her actions.
No matter what you say, Liz, you're not my mother. You're just my plain big sister. And you don't know what it is to have guys run after you and take you places. I'm going to be a star someday, and then my picture will always be in the papers. Of course it hurts me that Papa's been let go. I have to do what's best for Althea, and what's best for Althea is publicity.
How could you let yourself be photographed in that place with all those boys? How could you?
Oh, well, you won't say that when I'm on Broadway. When my name is up in lights, you'll brag about your little sister, the big star.
But what about Papa? He's not young, and he's got all of us to take care of.
Well, not me. I'm not going to stay in this town any longer than I have to. I'm off to New York, to a real town where a girl isn't condemned just because she's got her face on the front page of every newspaper. So I'll be just one less for Papa to provide for. You, Bobby, and Patsy can figure out a way to get yourselves out of it. I know how I can handle myself.
A tight skirt and lipstick doesn't get you everything.
Well, just because you never tried it, don't think it doesn't work. It's helping me get a tryout in a Broadway show in 2 weeks. There. Now you know. I kept it from you as long as I could. Well, I left Papa a note telling him how I can be reached. Just let me get my suitcase, and then I'll be on my way.
Liz, heartbroken, begins to cry and wonders how she can face all these problems. Once again, the answer is Jerry. Dr. Jerry Forrester, Liz's fiancé, who has entered quietly while Liz stands there.
Liz, there's nothing to be
Okay,
said.
that gives you an idea of what it was like.
Go ahead and
Wasn't it
cry.
very touching drama? People hung on every word in those days. Okay, we're going to go to our Discovery film. Some of you saw earlier ones. We went to Russia in one, and on the QE2 at cruise to London, and what else do we see? I rode a mule down into the Grand Canyon. Remember that one? Well, today we're going to go to the ocean and see the Discovery show that we did back in the 1970s, 60s, and 70s. And we have one spot that's memorable to me. You'll see me strolling down the beach, and we planted a blue crab there, a live blue crab. And I was instructed how to pick it up so it wouldn't bite me. Either I didn't pay attention or they didn't give me the correct instructions, but when I picked it up, the camera rolling, I said a few words that weren't in the script. So what you'll see here is take 2. So be watching for me at the beginning, picking up the blue crab. Here we go, Discovery turning back the clock.
Hopefully this one's not really, really loud.
I had black hair then.
But you'd know it was you.
Good.
This is an ABC color presentation. This is a hermit crab. A crab that has to live in a borrowed house because it has no shell of its own. This is an arrow crab eating its dinner. And this is a sea anemone, an animal that looks like a plant. All of these creatures live in the hidden world between the tides, a world that's half land and half water. We're going to find out more about the inhabitants of this hidden world today as Discovery takes us where the sea begins. Discovery 67, the award-winning program for young people with Bill Owen. The shore, where the sea begins, is always a strange and beautiful place. Although at first glance it may seem empty and deserted, it's filled with life. In every square foot along the beach, there's a special kind of life that is neither sea nor land alone, but a mixture of both. A hidden world that changes with a change of tides twice each day. At low or ebb tide, the shore belongs to the land world with its heat and cold, rain and wind. The birds of the shoreline find their food along the exposed beach when the waters recede. Tiny crabs come out of their hiding places in the sand to search for food along the low tide line. For most shore creatures, life consists of hunting for food and hiding from the larger creatures that prey upon them. But when the tide comes in, this same beach becomes a watery world. The flooding tide brings protection and food for the other creatures that lie hidden in the shallows, buried in the sand, or under the rocks and coral. When we walk along the beach, we're actually on the rooftops of an underground city. There are many signs of this hidden life. Have you ever picked up an empty shell and wondered about the creature that once lived inside? Here in the Florida Keys, you might find a shell like this from a Lima clam.
Here's what this clam looks like when it's alive. In the water, all of its hidden beauty comes to light. The long, waving tentacles draw food in from the water to the scarlet mouth inside the shell. All clams are part of the mollusk family and are known as bivalves because of the two muscles or valves that open and close its twin shells.
You've probably seen scallop shells along the beach too. But did you know that scallops can actually swim and that they have blue eyes? Not just two eyes, but a whole row of them.
If you look closely, you can see these eyes all along the edges. Most bivalves hide in the sand. They can only move around slowly by digging and pushing sand. But scallops can actually swim, using those muscles or valves to clap their shells closed, like this. They expel water and can shoot ahead quickly for short distances.
You probably held an empty shell up to your ear like this to hear the sound of the sea. It's an echo effect caused by the curling, hollow surfaces inside. This shell belongs to a conch. It's spelled C-O-N-C-H. The conch usually lies hidden under a rocky crevice or buried in seaweed.
But when it comes out to feed, it's surprising to see just how much of the conch's body is crammed into that shell. The conch is carnivorous. It feeds on other live animals. It moves around slowly by pulling itself along on its foot. The foot is in the strong muscle at the end of its body, the part that's extended outside the shell. The conch is actually a giant snail, and it's classified as a gastropod, a Greek word meaning stomach and foot.
An empty conch shell can serve another useful purpose when it becomes a home for this creature, a hermit crab. Because a hermit crab has no hard shell of its own, it has to borrow a shell. A conch like this, or a snail shell, will serve very nicely.
When a hermit crab climbs into the shell, it hooks its tail around the inside and moves along by thrusting its legs outside the shell. When the crab grows too big for its borrowed shell, it just moves out and finds a larger one. Its eyes are very well adapted for peering out of its shell. They're on the end of those two long, flexible stalks. Hermit crabs feed on small, dead sea animals, fish, clams, and jellyfish that are washed ashore by the tide. The crab, like the lobster and the shrimp, is a member of the crustacean family. Because they all have shell-covered feet, they're called arthropods, another Greek word meaning jointed foot.
This is a crab that does have a shell of its own. It's a common blue crab. You may have seen this kind before, but you've probably never seen it having dinner.
The blue crab's favorite meal is shrimp. It uses its two strong front claws for holding and cutting up the shrimp and pushing it into its mouth. It keeps circulating the water with tiny spinnerets around its mouth, even while it eats. When the crab is through eating, it cleans all the scraps off the shells on the bottom. And that's the end of a tasty dinner.
If you should follow a trail like this along the sand, you might find this strange creature, a horseshoe crab. It has one of the most protective shells of all. Just like an armored tank, this hard coating protects its soft body underneath. And the horseshoe crab carries a dangerous weapon, its spiky tail. That tail is covered with sharp barbs that can be very painful if you should accidentally step on it. Another method used by shore creatures for hiding is camouflage. This might look like just a piece of sponge cast up on the beach, but if you look closely, you can see that it's a living creature.
It's called a sponge crab because it uses pieces of sponge that it finds in the ocean for camouflage. The crab holds the sponge on top of its shell with its specially modified back legs. The sponge makes an efficient disguise against birds, turtles, or any other creature that likes to eat these crabs. One of the tiniest crabs has hardly any protective shell at all, but it uses its shell in a very interesting way. This tiny arrow crab gets its name from its body. It looks like an arrow pointing upwards. If you saw this crab on the beach, you might mistake it for a spider with its long, jointed legs. But the arrow crab does have two small claws on its front legs, and you can see how it uses that arrow-pointed body. It carries a spare piece of food, like this shrimp, on the top of its head. And when it gets hungry, it just pulls off pieces of the food, one bite at a time, and pops them into its mouth. That's a marvelous adaptation for carrying an extra meal around when food is scarce. We've seen part of the hidden world that burrows in the sand, clams and crabs. But did you know there are also crabs that can climb trees? Well, we'll see them. And also a creature that stands on its head and eats with its feet, and another that walks with its teeth. We'll see them all in just a minute. The blue crab, like most crabs that must swim to catch their food, has its back legs modified into a pair of flippers for swimming. But this crab has no flippers. Its hind legs are designed for running and climbing on land. It's called a fiddler crab because of its huge single claw on the front that looks like a fiddle. Like most of the land crabs, the fiddler feeds on plant life on shore. And if you're on the beach at the right time, you might see and hear hundreds of them scuttling across the sand in search of food. Some crabs have adapted so well that they're actually able to climb small trees and shrubs to do their hunting. In the South Pacific, there's a larger species called the robber crab that's able to climb tall coconut trees and cut down the nuts, which it opens with its huge claws to get at the meat inside. When it comes to unusual ways of using legs, these creatures probably take first prize. If you live near the shore, you've probably seen barnacles like these attached to rocks or pilings along the water. Although they look like a clam or oyster, barnacles are actually members of the crustacean family, related to the lobster, shrimp, and crab. But the barnacle shell is firmly cemented down. Early in life, they attach themselves to rocks or wood floating in the water. When water covers the barnacles, the tiny separate plates of their shells open up, and the barnacles push out their feathery feet, sweeping bits of food floating in the water into their mouths. Because they have no arms, these creatures spend their whole lives literally living upside down, using their feet to catch their food. The starfish leads a different sort of hidden life. At low tide, when the ocean leaves tidal pools like this one, you may be lucky enough to find some starfish half buried in the wet sand. Although its body is quite soft and fragile, its arms are covered on top with prickly spines, some of which act like tweezers. They're able to keep sand and small parasites from settling on the starfish. On the bottom of the arms are 2 feet, with rows of suckers that grip the surface of sand or rocks as the starfish pulls itself along. It feeds on clams, oysters, and mussels. In order to open the strong shell of the clam, the starfish wraps its arms around the shell and pulls it open with the power of its many suckers. The starfish has its mouth on the underside of its body. It has no teeth, and because its mouth is too small to swallow its food whole, the starfish is able to push its entire stomach through its mouth into the clam shell. Then it slowly digests the clam. The brittle starfish has more flexible arms. They move up and down as well as sideways to help it navigate more easily. They're called brittle stars because their arms are very delicate and break off easily. They're always in danger of catching an arm under a rock or losing it to an enemy. If this happens, though, the brittle star, like other starfish, is able to grow an entirely new arm.
Some close relatives of the starfish that also hide beneath the sand are this sea biscuit and this sand dog.
They carry the same pattern of the five-pointed star in their bodies. And like the starfish, they both have small spines on top of their bodies, which they can move about, waving them through the water to catch tiny sea organisms.
Although they have no movable arms, they can use these small spines to help them burrow into the sand, where they spend most of their lives waiting for food to pass by. One of the most interesting creatures that hides along the shoreline is the sea urchin. It's covered with these brittle spines that are extremely sharp. You have to be careful to avoid touching a sea urchin in the water, because these spines can easily penetrate your skin and cause a painful irritation.
At first glance, you might think that the sea urchin is just a plant growing underwater. But it is a live animal in its own hidden world. The urchin keeps moving its spines continually. They serve as a protective defense against any attack. The sea urchin is very sensitive to light, and even a shadow moving over it will cause the spines to move toward the direction of danger.
This brown urchin uses its spines to cover itself with sand and shell to act as camouflage. Beneath the spines, there's a hard, round shell that protects the soft body inside. This one's called a pencil urchin because its spines are thicker and look like pencils.
Its mouth is on the bottom, underneath its body. The urchin feeds on small creatures like brine shrimp. It also eats small plants by scraping them off rocks with its 5 shiny teeth. Those teeth also help it move around. The sea urchin actually walks around on its teeth, pulling itself from place to place.
It's easy to see now how a deserted-looking beach is actually filled with a hidden life all its own. We'll see some more strange and wonderful creatures of the shore, including a live animal that looks like a flower but carries a deadly poison. We'll also see a fish that pumps itself up like a football, and we'll see them in just a minute. Here, where the sea begins, there's an endless process of change. The tides and the waves take away from the land, gradually wearing away even the heavy rocks along our northern shores. They also bring back more land in the form of sand. The type of ocean bottom offshore determines the kind of beach sand. Here in the Florida Keys, the sand is made up mainly of grains of coral and limestone, from which most of this coast has been formed. Just offshore are the only living coral reefs to be found on the Atlantic coast. There are many different kinds of coral with different colors and shapes.
This is a piece of rose coral. This is called finger coral. Here's some brain coral and star coral.
Although it feels as hard as rock, coral is actually made up
Of the remains of millions of tiny living organisms. Every one of these microscopic coral animals grows a hard limestone skeleton. As they die, their skeletons form a coral reef like this, where fish and other sea life begin to flourish. The coral provides a home and food for all kinds of strange creatures. There are even fish that eat the coral itself, like these long-nosed butterfly fish that can crunch the hard coral in their teeth. There are other fish with strange defenses that can be found here in the shallows, like this baby spiny boxfish. It gets its name from the many sharp little spines that it has on its back. Normally, a boxfish is quite small when it swims, but if an enemy threatens, it can pump itself up with air, just like a football, to 2 or 3 times its normal size, hoping that it will look too big for its enemy to swallow. The shallow world offshore provides a home for these strange knights in armor, the seahorses. Although it belongs to the fish family, the seahorse is certainly an unusual fish.
The male seahorse hatches the female's eggs inside a pouch on the front of its body. It carries the eggs inside its pouch like a kangaroo until they're ready to be hatched. The seahorse's body is covered with bony plates like a suit of armor. It clings to weeds and grass with its curled tail, and when it swims, it uses its heavy head for balance and to change direction, while flipping its tiny fins on the back and front. Because seahorses cannot maneuver and swim as easily as other fish, they've developed an unusual weapon to catch their food. Those tube-like mouths are actually powerful suction guns. You can see how well they work as these 2- and 3-inch seahorses pop tiny fish and little glass shrimp into their mouths. Seahorses have enemies, too, like this jellyfish. You may have seen jellyfish in the ocean, pulsating their air-filled bodies as they swim along. But this delicate creature can be a deadly enemy to a seahorse. Each of those thin, trailing tentacles of the jellyfish contains stinging cells that it uses to catch and paralyze its prey. This type, called a moon jelly, is not very dangerous to humans, but its tentacles are an effective weapon against the seahorse. These sea anemones look very much like the flowers they were named after, but they're actually living animals of the underwater world. Sea anemones are close relatives of the jellyfish. They too have stinging cells in their waving tentacles. The anemone is not a free-swimming animal like the jellyfish. It finds a home on coral or rock, where it can wait for a fish dinner to pass by. Sometimes it will even choose to stay on the back of a conch shell that is already inhabited by a hermit crab and get a little more mobility from the free ride it picks up. The anemone also paralyzes its prey. Like the jellyfish, it uses its tentacles to trap and sting any fish that gets too close to it. It's a long, slow process for the anemone to eat this fish, but it will gradually suck it down into its soft body, where it will be digested. The life that goes on in this hidden world may seem cruel and harsh to us, but these are all animals that operate by instinct, not emotion. They're not being cruel as we know it. They're just doing what they have to do to survive. In order to stay alive, they must eat and defend themselves against being eaten. We'll be back in just a minute. We found out today that the edge of the ocean has a whole hidden world of life. A life that is part land and part water. The shoreline is an ancient world. The ever-changing ocean, in which all life on Earth first began, is a powerful force that can create and destroy whole sections of our coastline, and is able to support an infinite variety of life. Next time you go walking along the beach, you might take a closer look at the hidden world just beneath your feet. It's not as deserted as it might seem. If you'd like to find out more about the edge of the sea, ask your librarian for any of these books. Fishes and Their Ways by Clarence J. Highlander. Wonders of the World Between the Tides by Norman Hammond Wakeman. And Exploring Under the Sea by Sam Pittman. Be with us next week when Discovery continues to discover America. Bye-bye. The Discovery Unit's transportation and promotional consideration provided by United Airlines.
nature amazing? The writer Ronald Liss who gave credit there. He was a boy actor. He was an actor as a young boy on radio, and he played Batman as a guest on Superman one time. So we used to kid him about that. Okay, now we come to our feature attraction, featuring our great performers, Don Stigin in a dual role as a taxi driver and the sound man. You notice the sound woman, by the way, in the soap opera. She was quite busy. And a sound man one time explained to me that there's more to just giving sound of footsteps. There are different types of footsteps. There's panicky footsteps. There's strolling along leisurely. There's running. So it was quite an art to be a sound person. Okay, Julia Drummond is my co-star today with Don. And we're going back to the days of Ethel and Albert. And this is an actual script. It was written by Peg Lynch, and she performed it herself. She was on radio and television. This is from the Kate Smith Hour on CBS in 1952. So I hope you enjoy the script. Picture looking into that radio. That's what we used to do. We'd look at the radio. Remember the old days? Sit around and watch the radio. And Kate Smith would be singing, and then on would come one of these little skits like we're about to perform. Okay, here we go. Sound effects man starts with the car. Go ahead.
Is that the horn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Beep, 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 beep. Albert, the taxi's here. Albert, he's here, honey. Come on, he's here.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. My coat.
Here. Oh, wrong sleeve. Have you got money? Have you got money?
Oh, yeah, I got money.
You got your tickets?
Yeah, I got my ticket, yeah.
Well, take care of yourself.
I will.
Well, have a good time.
I say I'm not going for a good time, honey. You know, it's just business.
Well, call me the minute you get there.
Yeah, I will, honey. I will. Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, darling. Oh, I'll miss you.
My briefcase. Where's my briefcase?
Oh, here it is.
Oh, the most important thing of all. It's got my speech in it.
Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, darling. Okay, now take care.
Good luck. Well, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. What's the matter? Oh, I thought it was the taxi. I'm sorry, honey.
Well, it's somebody for the Hutchinsons next door, not for me.
Oh, well.
No sense taking my coat off, I guess.
No. You'll be right here. I told them that you were catching a train.
Yeah.
Well, you might as well sit down, you know?
Yeah. Might as well sit down, I guess, yeah.
You got money?
Yeah, I got money, yeah.
You got your ticket?
Yeah, I got my ticket, yeah.
Well, take care of yourself.
Yeah, well, you take care of yourself.
Oh, I will.
Lock up the doors at night now.
Oh, yes, I will.
Don't forget.
No, I won't forget. Well, I'll miss you.
Well, I'll miss you too, honey.
Well, have a good time.
Well, I'm not going for a good time, honey. I mean, it's just a convention, you know. A lot of business meetings, things like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, give my regards to Mildred.
Yeah, I will. Mildred who?
Mildred Paulson. When you see her in Chicago.
Oh, I'm not going to see anyone in Chicago, darling. I'm just going to be running from one station to another to make connections for Cincinnati.
I know, dear, but you'll see Mildred for just a minute, and I just meant to give her my regards when you give her galoshes.
Give who? Whose galoshes?
Well, didn't you pack them?
Pack what?
Mildred Paulson's galoshes.
I most certainly did not pack Mildred Paulson's galoshes. I don't even know Mildred Paulson.
Myra Pemberton's sister. You met her. She was visiting Myra last week from Chicago, and she left her galoshes with Myra, and Myra knew that you were going to Chicago on this trip. Then she said, would you take the galoshes to Mildred? And I said, I asked you, and you said, yes, you'd be glad to.
Ethel, I never said any such thing.
Why, you did. I asked you way last week.
I don't remember you saying anything about galoshes.
Oh, honey, you just don't listen. Well, it's all arranged anyway.
What's all arranged?
Well, it's all arranged. I explained it to you at breakfast this morning. Honestly, honey, you just really don't listen. I'll go get the galoshes, the overshoes, and you put them in right upstairs by your suitcase so you pack them.
Darling, look, Ethel, listen. There's no point. Look, when I get to Chicago, I'm going to have exactly 40 minutes to get from the LaSalle Street station over to the Union Station. Look, I'll be lucky to get a taxi and make connections at all. Ethel, I'm telling you, there's no point in bringing down those galoshes.
Well, it's all arranged, darling. It won't be any bother to you at all. It really
Darling,
won't.
Look, will you please? The taxi's going to be here any minute.
It'll only take a second, dear. Where's your suitcase? Oh, here it is. Let me just get this open and
No, don't put those dirty things next to my nice clean shirts.
Oh, honestly. Yeah, well, all right. Let me get some newspaper. Oh, here. I'll put
Look,
them
the
right
taxi
in the
will
box.
be here any minute.
What's the matter with this thing?
Look, I'm going to have exactly 40 minutes
Darling, you will make it.
to get from one station to another.
Darling, you will make it. It's absolutely all arranged. When you get off the train in Chicago, all you have to do is go through the gate, and Mildred will be there, ready to take her galoshes.
All right then.
Now, if she isn't there...
There. Now you see, I knew it. That's exactly what'll happen. She won't be there.
Oh, here, hold these a minute, honestly.
I don't know what to do. I'll be walking around. It always happens.
If she misses you in the crowd, go straight ahead past the coffee shop on your left, and then go right towards a small newsstand. Mildred will be standing in front of the newsstand. In fact, she said she was standing in front of the cigar so that you would know her.
Why? Does she smoke cigars?
Oh, honey, honestly.
Ethel, I just don't know what to do.
Anyhow, she'll know you. She thought you were just wonderful, and she thinks you're just wonderful to take her galoshes to her.
Darling,
Now, if by the wildest chance she is not by the cigar stand, and she'll certainly plans to be, but after all, she is the cub mother this week, and she's not sure
she's
that...
what?
Cub mother. You know, Boy Scouts, Cubs. And anyhow, she has to round up a whole lot of the Cubs and take them to the meeting. So she might not be there. And in that case, you ought to call Stanley. Now, Stanley...
Darling, look, I'm not... Who's Stanley?
Stan Garrett. It's her husband. He's in the real estate. And here's his telephone number in the overshoes. I'm putting it right here, see? Now, Stanley would be in the office, should be in the office, darling, but if he is not, it's because his mother's visiting and she might decide to go back to Denver this Wednesday instead of next Wednesday. It seems that she's building a house or something, and the ground was too hard, so they couldn't start digging. But if they start digging and it's soft enough, now she'll fly back to Denver. this week, today, and Stanley will be at the airport. Now, if he's not in the office when you phone, you're to ask for a Mr. Edwards. You know, he'll know, dear, who you are. There'll be no trouble about that, and he will send the office boy down to the Union Station. Now, darling, the office boy will go into the coffee shop, and he will order the raised donuts and a cup of coffee. That's how you know him, dear. Because Mildred couldn't think of any other way to identify him. You see, he always wears sweaters, and there's no buttonhole for a flower. And so that's what she thought. So when you would go to the coffee shop, what's the matter?
What in Sam Hill are you talking about?
Darling, I explained all this to you this morning at breakfast. What were you doing?
Breakfast? I was thinking about the speech I got to make at the convention.
Albert, you can't tell me you haven't heard something about Mildred's overshoes.
Well, now that you're going on so about it, maybe I heard something. I don't know, but I certainly wasn't listening because I had no intention of doing anything like that.
It won't close. It just won't close.
Okay, that's it. That settles it. I am not taking them. Here, give them to me. I'm just not going to carry these things. I mean, after all, honey, why can't you go on a trip without somebody asking you to take something to somebody somewhere? Here, well, you know yourself, honey, it's just a pain in the neck. I mean, let's face it.
Forget it. Just forget it. You don't have to take them. I'll just tell Myra that you don't want to. I'll just tell Myra to tell Mildred that you didn't want to care to bother to bring her galoshes.
Oh, darling.
Of course, Myra and Harold have been just perfectly wonderful to us about little things. Myra and Harold were just wonderful when our dog dug all of the stuffing out of their porch swing.
All right. I'll take
Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, there's the taxi. There's the taxi. Oh.
Here. We'll have to wrap.
All right. The taxi's waiting out there. All right. Give me all this stuff here.
Newspaper. Here.
Darling. Oh, for Pete's sakes.
Here you are. Oh, no. Don't wrap it that way.
Oh, give me some string.
String. Oh, okay. I'll go find some.
Ding dong, ding.
Oh, darling. Oh, all right. Come in.
Taxi.
Yeah, all right. Come in. I'll be right with you.
All set?
Yeah, I'm all set. I just want to get these things here.
Is this to go?
Yeah, get that, will you? If you don't mind, it's a suitcase to go out of. I'm sorry, but I've got to.
Honey, this is all I could find. Oh, hello.
Oh, here. This is my wife.
Are you wrapping the galoshes?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Oh, I don't think he needs to take the lashes. It's getting warmer.
Oh, well, they're not for him. He's taking them to Mildred Paulson. She left them here when she was visiting last time from Chicago.
Darling, honey, the man doesn't care anything about that. Give me the string, will you?
Oh, yeah, here. And darling, will you take these to Mildred too, honey?
What's that?
Watermelon pickles.
Watermelon pickles?
Yes, dear. Mildred's just crazy about them, and I said I would give her some, and then I forgot, so I told Myra I would send them with. Now, I'm sure the top is on tight, but you know the syrup is sticky, so please be careful of it, dear. Hold the jar upright. Well, keep it upright. That's right. Now, have you got everything straight, honey? Mildred will be at the gate or the cigar stand. If she is not there, you're to call Stanley. And if he is not there, you're to ask for a Mr. Edwards. Remember his number's in the overshoes now.
Well.
Ask for a Mr. Edwards, and he will send the office boy over to the Union Station. Give him the watermelon pickles and the galoshes. Got it straight now, dear?
Well, I don't know. Ask Mildred will be at the coffee shop. Or,
No, at the cigar stand.
Mildred will be at the cigar stand, and if she's not there, I'm to ask for a Mr. No, I call up Stanley. If he's not, I ask for Mr.
Edwards.
Mr. Edwards. Yeah, that's right, Edwards. Anyway, I'm to look for the office boy, and if that doesn't happen with the Ray's Donuts, he'll be in the Union Station by
the coffee shop.
By the coffee shop. Yeah.
Oh, I wish you were going with him.
Don't worry. We'll practice it on the way to the station. Say, you better hurry if you want to make that train.
Yeah, well, all right. Okay, Kate. Well, goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, dear. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye, sweetie. Now, take care of yourself.
I will. Now, have a good time.
Yeah, take care. Bye, dear.
Ring, 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 ring.
Oh, dear. Hello? Yes, Myra. It's the cab. He was just leaving. No, he didn't mind at all. He was very sweet about it. No, it was just no trouble at all. Myra, hold on. Albert, Myra, get your car out. No, ours is in the garage being greased. Hurry, I just think we need to make it to the station. Albert forgot his briefcase with his speech. Oh, he's going to be hysterical. I just know that, and I'll never hear the end of this.
And that's our show for today, folks. As I said, Peg Lynch wrote and appeared in all of the scripts on both radio and television. Well, thank you again.